Come take a look at our tips and tricks video on the new Stormcasts, going from the old book to the new book. Smacking bits. Alright, what's up, Hobby Maniacs? Baer with you again today, trying to break down and give you our best tips and tactics we can possibly give you on the new Stormcast Eternals for Age of Sigmar. Now, we're coming from the old Battletome right here, that's approximately a year and a half old, to the brand new one, which I always get confused because I think this one is the new one, that one's actually the new one. I like this cover better. But I digress. So this particular book, as I was going through taking my notes, I realized, holy crap, this is a ridiculous amount of content. There is so much stuff to talk about in here. So I tried to clip it down. We're trying to keep it to just the new stuff, just the pertinent stuff, just the stuff that changed, the stuff that you need to know. Now, we were not able to cram in enough to break down and talk about actually constructing new Stormcast Eternal armies. It's just too much information. It's a 168-page book, and there is so much new stuff in here. I don't want to cheapen it, but I don't want to sit here and drone on for an hour either. So I think next week we are going to do a kind of like how to play Stormcast Eternals now in the new General's Handbook format, because that's basically what this is. It's the General's Handbook format where they get abilities, command benefits, artifacts. Now their little mounts, the little kitty cats they can ride, kitty cat dragons they can ride into battle, are now getting traits. It's crazy. There's so much information in here, and it was a lot to process, I'll be quite honest, and I'm sure we're gonna get some of it wrong. So obviously, please leave any sort of comments below so we can all be on the same page moving forward. Well, first off, this is a fantastic 168-page book. Now, we will be referencing some of the new game aid cards, the unit cards here. Now, I don't know. I love these things. I think they're a great idea. I would have preferred they're about half size personally. I don't want to be that guy that was asking for these things for 2 years and then we get them and I say, hey, I don't like them, they suck. But I don't understand why the print is so big or so small up here and there's so much dead space on like literally every one right here. I don't get it, but I think it's a great idea and I'm still going to play with them because you can just be like, all right, well, boom, 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 kind of like that, you know. But we will reference these because they are great game aids, to have, not even in game, but also to help us do this review here. So 168-page book. Now let's go over what I want to do real quick is go over the major changes between this book and of course this Stormcast Eternal book right here. And now the biggest change, of course, is, and I don't know if you've heard, LVO just happened. There was a Stormcast army that won, and basically that you can no longer legally play that list, and not because anything Andrew did wrong or anything like that. Don't even get it twisted. But they actually took the majority of things out of this book that made that army so really good. Well, at a glance. Now there is some stuff that you can do here. You can still beef some of your stuff up, and that might be our second video. But what I wanted to show you was that literally every unit in here is the same, bar one. There was one thing that changed, but maybe more importantly what changed in here is the Vexella in here. I thought the Vexella was in here. Remember, this is the old. Maybe the Vexella isn't in here. Well, we know the Vexella changed. Okay, well, yep, there it is. So the Vexella changed. They took away the ability to port, just pick up something and port it and land within 3 inches. The only way you can land within anything less than 9 inches now is the new Lantern Knight, the Green Lantern Knight, as I like to call him. He can land you within 5 inches, but that's about as close as you can get. Not the Azuros. Maybe it is the Azuros. Yes, that is him. You can land within 5. Even if this would mean that they're within 9 inches of the enemy. So that is the only way to do it now. They took that away from the Vexella, just to be aware, and also the Tempestus ability to wound multiple units was taken away as well. So these are very important things because being able, gosh, I keep losing the Vexella. Being able to port and then land within 3, and then also every unit within 6 get blasted for D3 wounds was pretty crucial to the 5th game in Andrew's path to glory, so to speak, at the LVO. This was a huge part of it right here, and this is no longer part of it. You cannot do this, but we will go over his card. Actually, it's right here. Let's take a look at that one real quick. Lord Relictor. Here we go. The Knight Velexor. So now you just pick a unit, remove it from play, and then it can land 9 inches with an enemy. It cannot move in the following movement phase. Takes away all the little nifty doing damage mechanics right there, and it has to land with the net. Now, not only that, but they did change one other thing in here too. If you're used to taking these formations, they no longer work the way they used to work, because they have changed the special rule, which you're going to see here. So this lightning strike special rule that's in here is now completely null and void, although all of these battalions are still in the new book. They have changed this, and we'll talk about this in a minute. You cannot just pick stuff up or hold them in reserve and then drop them within 9 inches. There's very specific ways to do it now. So overall, those were the big changes between the two books. Of course, now we have points, which we didn't have points when this book originally first came out, right? Because there was no General's Handbook. There's a knife. So, okay, so let's move forward and talk about the contents in this book. Like I said, 168 pages, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of new rules. Let's talk about the new units first, real quick, before we get into actual formations and battalions or battalions and battalions of battalions. It's just crazy how much material is in here. So first off, let's talk about the Lord Killer. So this is the new chicken chocobo rider Lord guy right here. He's 200 points, I believe. I don't think he's too bad for what he does. Quite personally. He has decent stats all the way around. I like his command ability. His command ability is pretty good. It's where you can basically grab any of the newer units. That includes the Vanguard Hunters, the Paladors, the Raptors, and the Aether Wings. So the super shooty guys, the Ranger guys, or the Chocobos themselves. And you can jump them into Deep Strike Reserve. So you basically take them off the table, put them into reserve, and then the next turn you can come on and you can basically outflank using the Astral Compass special rule, which, if you're familiar with 40k, is basically an outflank. You have to set the units up wholly within 6 inches of any of the board edges, but it has to be more than 7 inches away from the enemy. So remember, the only way so far that I could see that you can get within anything less than 9 inches is this mechanic here, or the Lantern Knight's ability to drop them within 5 inches. So you're not going to be able to get any more close-in support 3-inch kind of deal like we saw with the Exemplar. Okay. As far as weapons go, a heavy bolt storm pistol, which is pretty much standard for the Ranger dudes. 4 attacks, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, not too bad. The weapons, all obviously good. High attacks on all of them right there. And then, of course, pretty good wounds, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, and really good rends, really good damage right there. You're going to see that there's a lot of formations and things that allow you to reroll to wounds, to reroll 1s to hits, and things like that. Now, I don't know exactly which ones specifically. We are going to talk about the new ones that include the new units, maybe more specifically, just because we don't have that much time. Now, there's something really cool here that's called the Ride the Winds special ability, and that is really interesting. You basically, in the movement phase, they can choose to ride the winds. These are all the chocobo kind of like chicken rider guys. If they choose to do so, the direction, choose the direction which they move, and then you roll 6 dice. You add them together, and basically they just kind of bust out. Then now they have to end their movement 3 inches from the enemy model. If this is impossible, they can't make that move. You cannot run or charge in a turn when you ride the winds, and that goes for the Lord of Killer and also the Chocobo Riders themselves. Okay. And he's 200 points. And then we got the Vanguard Raptors, 2 versions of them, long strike crossbows, hurricane crossbows. I believe these guys are 160, these guys are 180 in points. I can see where the hurricane crossbow has its place. 6 attacks, 4s to hit, 4s to wound. If you're rerolling 1s to hit, I think these volume of fire might be the way to go. They also, you can add 3 to attack characteristic of any hurricane crossbow in the unit uses shooting phase of the same turn. Okay, so if they don't move, you get to add 3 attacks. Now you're talking 9 attacks, 4s to hit, 4s to wound. 9 hitting on 4s, that's basically 4.5 hits. However you choose to do fractions in, when it comes to rolling dice. We'll just say for, math's sake that's 4. So say each one of these guys is hitting with 4. you've got roughly 20 hits at that point, right? And then to wound 4, so that's basically 50-50. So 10 wounds. 10 wounds doing damage 1. It's volume of fire. Things that have a lower save, probably going to get wrecked by this. Things that have a higher save, not so good against. You're going to want to get these guys here with the long strike crossbows that are 2s to hit, 3s to wound, -2 and 2 damage. These are your elite droppers. These are your kind of like things like Blood Reaver droppers, or, you know, just things that are lightly armored. And there's a time and a place for everything, and it's going to be hard to know what to take in what army, but that's basically, you have to make that choice when you get these guys and you put these guys together. The long shot ability up here, or excuse me, the headshot ability, I think is pretty spectacular. The roll to hit on a 6 causes 2 mortal wounds instead of the normal damage. So if any of the hits are a 6 or more, it causes 2 mortal wounds. Now, I don't even know what to say right now. So, like, remember, there's a specific way that hits stack. So if you're +1 to hit, and you roll a 5 or a 6, that technically counts as a 6, rules as written. From what I understand, reading all the forums and reading everything needs to be read verbatim that's in the back rules, which from what it sounds like to how they were playing at LVO, that's exactly how it works. Now, we don't have a lot of TOs and things when it comes to Age of Sigmar, so I have to peruse a lot of this information off the internet. Obviously, if I'm misspeaking, please leave your comments below and we will all address it in due time. But I believe that is the way it is played. Like I said, that was the way they played it at LVO. That's the way a lot of people believe on the interwebs, the Interconnected Series 2. So I'm inclined to also agree with it personally. Again, if you read rules as written in here, that is kind of how it sounds like it works. Everything is very... there doesn't seem to be a lot of gray in the 4-page rules in the back of the book that's in all of these books here. So just something to keep in mind. Very cool stuff there. And then we got the Vanguard Hunters. These are the little Chocobo riders themselves. And they are pretty neat. They got the Bolt Storm pistol, of course, because they got to carry a sidearm. 2 attacks, 3s to hit, 4s to wound, just like the Lord of Killer. And then they have their choice of Storm Saber or Shock Hand Axe. I personally enjoy the Storm Saber and those really cool dynamically looking poses that almost looks like some of the Plains Indians hunting buffaloes. I think a lot of those poses were inspired by that, which I can definitely appreciate there, being from the Americas. Storm Saber is 2 attacks, 3s to hit, 4s to wound. Very awesome. Vanguard Hunters can run and shoot in the same time, and they have the Astral Compass special rule, which allows them to just kind of go into reserve and then come back on with the outflank ability akin to 40k. Once again, I use a lot of 40k rules kind of interchangeably in with Age of Sigmar because that's what I can equate it to. So nothing personal, that's just how I like to choose to talk. And remember, when you come back in, you have to stay 6 inches from the edge and 7 inches away from the enemy. And then at the Aether Wings, which seem to be little birdie things that might come with these Raptor guys, you might be able to make a separate unit, or they might be a separate unit. We don't know yet because as of the time of this recording, we have not seen the new releases for the next week. Now, I would kind of imagine they might be an individual unit because the fact that this is the only thing that's left to come out, well, there you go. I could see it being 2, and especially when we just got the Gryph-hounds right there. So they seem okay, but the real buffer is that they have this Watchful Guardian special rule. So if you put them in with the Chocobos, anytime somebody tries to charge the Chocobos, these guys can basically intercept them and jump right in the way. They can move, a friendly unit of Aether Wings within 12 can immediately move, roll 2 dice. The Aether Wings can move up to this distance in inches. They can retreat with this move, but cannot run and cannot take them further than 12 inches away from the Raptor. So it's kind of like the old school fantasy where you would kind of feign some guys being out there and something would charge, and then they would run away and you'd smash into them with something else. But now it's kind of the opposite. You kind of put your main unit out there as bait, and then these guys kind of you try to get charged, and then these guys jump in front of that unit to deflect the charge and then allow you to get into position and kind of envelop them or something like that. So I think that's pretty neat. They can retreat and change charge in the same wound. They are only 2 wounds with no save, so you do have to protect them. A smart opponent would shoot them first. So that is all of the... Oh, and then the Vanguard Paladors, which ones are these guys? Oh, this is the other version. Or did I get mixed up? Oh, these are the Ranger guys. Right. So these were the Ranger guys with the little PETA fur cloaks on the back of them. And then these are the Chocobo guys, which still, the Star Strike Javelins are definitely pretty good. Oh, no, wait. Storm Sabers. Oh, right. Okay. So Storm Saber, that's a sword. Obviously, it's better than the hand axe, like we were saying. And then these guys here have the Star Strike Javelin. That's the one I like. 3s to hit, 3s doing 1 to rend. You can also use it in combat. It's attack of 1, 4s to hit, 3s doing -1 rend. So it's good all around, I feel like, which is pretty dope. They have the Ride the Winds ability. Like I said, you know, you can just choose to activate it, roll your 66 and make that move. Now there's things to give you an extra 3 dice, which we're going to see in the battalions later on, but just keep that in mind right there. They can attack with their Luna Blade and attack in addition to their shock hand axe. The enemy unit, 2 more that suffers an enemy. I forget what this does. Choose an enemy unit with 1 and roll a dice. Oh, it's just like a free attack kind of thing. So on a 2 or more, that unit suffers a mortal wound. If they choose to do it within 1 inch. And I think that was all the big stuff here. Like I said, a lot of information to cover. I took a lot of notes, but I wanted to go over the new units first, just so we had that fresh on the table as we cut into a lot of the special abilities here. So let's talk about starting right at the beginning with all of the new General's Handbook type abilities, which is in the front here. Lots and lots of material to come. Okay, so first of all, in order to benefit from a lot of this stuff, you have to obviously be Allegiance Sigmar or Allegiance Stormcast Eternals. That's pretty standard. We've talked about that on many tips and tactics and reviews here since the General's Handbook came out. So nothing new there. Then explains what a battle plan is, Path to Glory. We're not really going to concentrate too much on that. That's the very special ways to play. It can kind of like narrative mission kind of things. Path to Glory, they're putting your own individual charts for each faction in here. That's pretty cool. We're not really going to go over that. We've already shown you that chart in our first look video review from last week, so check that out. War Scroll battalions, we all know what those do, and War Scrolls themselves. Then we get into the Allegiance abilities, which is where my notes pick up. Dun dun dun. So we've got battle traits. Now the big thing here is the signs of the Storm special rule. Now the reason they nerfed a lot of those battalions and they changed that one special rule we were talking about is because they all have the sign of the Storm special rule now, which is basically you can leave these units in reserve now like you used to do, and instead of just bringing them in 9 inches away, just boom, all my stuff's here. Now you have to roll for it, which is fair, I feel like. So now you have to roll for it. On a 1 or 2, it does not arrive. On a 3+, it arrives, and then you can place them normally like you would do within the 9 inches. Blah 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 blah. This is their move for the movement phase, so they clarify that as well. Now, here's the thing: you're like, wow, that really sucks. Actually, no, it doesn't. A lot of the battalions in here allow you to get +2 to your roll. So keep that in mind. As long as you're kind of fitting your army into some of these battalions, you are going to be able to bring your stuff in generally when you want, unless you roll a 1, which I think always fails according to this with modifiers. So even if it's +2 on a roll of 1, either way, it's a roll of 1. So no, actually, if you roll a 1, it's +2, so it would be 3. So you always get them. Yeah, that makes sense. So that is really cool. And then we get into the command traits. Pretty decent ones. Now here's your caveats here. In addition to their command abilities, if they are a hero, the general of your army can pick one of these, or you can roll on a chart however you want to do it. Most people just pick them from what I understand. Not sure on competitive formats, obviously check with your TO at the beginning of the event. The Shielded by Faith is basically on a 5 or more, you can ignore mortal wounds. Very cool stuff right there. Second one, Consummate Commander. Choose another hero in your army. If the general is alive, this model can use any of his command abilities it may have as though it were your general. There's a couple of battalions that allow you to do this as well, specifically with the Lord Veritant and the Lord Celestant. maybe even the Relictor, I forget, but I'm pretty sure that those allow those specific dudes, to activate their command abilities as well. Cunning Strategist. Once both armies are set up, select before the first round begins on a D3. They can each make a move of up to 5 inches, or D3 friendly units can move up to 3 inches. Zealous Crusader, your general can reroll your charge distance. That's pretty cool. Staunch Defender, general and friendly units within 6 inches get +1 to their save. If they have not charged this turn, this modifier does not stack with the save roll modifier for being on or in a terrain feature. And Champion of the Realms, choose one of your general weapon profiles and increase its attack characteristic by 1. These do not replace anything. They come standard if your army, for whoever you elect as your army's general. Now, one caveat I do want to mention that I did not mention yet. There is a formation in the old book, the Wardens of the Realm Gate. That has been completely taken out, although it still has points in the General's Handbook 1. That was also one of the formations that Andrew used at the LVO. But it looks like currently it may not be in the General's Handbook 2, which is kind of depressing. It's this one right here, Wardens of the Realm Gate. So this also is no longer technically valid, although there is points for it in the General's Handbook. And theoretically, I have not been able to pull it up on the app. My app is acting up on my app, so I have not been able to check it on my app. I'm trying to update it and to get all the new stuff, but I think I just need to do a hard reset and reasons. It's a hard thing, so we'll just go with that. Obviously, let me know if you can see that one on your app. I think it's also one of the ones you have to pay for, so I'm not going to buy it there and then buy it here and then buy it over here, because I'm already like 2 books behind on Stormcast, and now we have the big 2nd edition book that has everything in it. So some of the stuff I'm just not going to know if it changed, like the middle books from that Battletome, the ones with like the drag costs and stuff, I don't have, so I'm not going to be able to compare and contrast them. Artifacts of Power. Now they're very specific on how you can take these. However, and you can only take 1 per hero, or one hero can take 1. However, if you take multiple battalions, for each one you take, another hero can take 1. And then they're very specific. This weapon is picked, cannot be used by a mount. So basically replaces a weapon. This one, the Enchanted Armor, confers an additional ability. It does not replace anything. The Magical Artifacts can just be given one of these artifacts. Does not override or anything like that. So they're very specific on what they tell you. Blessed Weapons, we've got +2 attacks against chaos, or just +1 normal. The Blade of Heroes rerolls all misses against monsters and heroes. Third one is pick one of the hero's melee weapons on a wound roll of 6. This causes double damage. 4 is reroll wound rolls of 1, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like a little foe preferred enemy almost. 5 is +1 to your rend characteristic. 6 is reroll, or if it has a dash, it becomes -1. 6 is reroll 1. What is it? Each turn you can reroll 1 hit, wound, or damage roll for attack made with this weapon. So basically, just pick a weapon there. For armor, you've got the first one is any roll of 6, so you can ignore mortal wounds on a what is this? Suffers an unsavable mortal wound, roll a dice. Oh, it's to protect them. So on a 6, you can disregard a mortal wound. 2 is 4+ to dispel if they're targeted by a spell, which isn't too bad, I suppose, if you're going up against a magic heavy army. 3 Drake Scale, change a die roll against weapons. No, 3 is reroll failed saves for this hero against weapons with damage characteristic of greater than 1. Mirror Shield is interesting. Subtract 2 from any rolls for missile weapons against the hero. 3, a hero may attempt to unbind a single spell as if he was a wizard. And 6, Fearful Torque. And units that can fly must reroll successful hits for attacks directed against this hero. And then the magical artifacts, you can add 1 to your wound. Whenever a hero is targeted or affected by a spell on a 4 or more, ignore the spell effects. Luckstone, I kind of like this one. Once per battle, you can change the result of one hit, wound, damage, or save roll for this hero to the result of your choice. Love it, right there. It's like a lucky charm from the Mordheim era. Seeds of Rebirth on a roll d6. On a 4 up, they can heal 1 wound. And a Sigmarite Pennant, whenever you hero is slain, roll a dice on a 4 or more. The unit is slain suffers d6 mortal wounds. And then 6, once per battle, a hero may paladin and make attacks in the combat phase before any other units, even if it is your opponent's turn. And then we get over to the little pet powers, as I like to call them, so you can get special abilities if your hero, and this is addition to anything else. You don't have to sacrifice command benefit or anything like that. Basically, one Stormcast, if your Stormcast Eternals includes a hero riding a Dracoth, a Stormglaive, or a Griff Charger, you can choose to identify an exceptional trait. You can do it for one dude. However, for each War Scroll battalion in your army, similar to the artifacts, you can do it twice. So keep that in mind as well if you're running a mount heavy army. You've got Dracoths, Star Drakes, and Griff Chargers, which I think is fantastic way to add flair to your army. Now the first 3 on all of these are the same. You've got Lithe Limbed, which is +1 to the move. Savage Loyalty, roll a dice. If the hero is slain in combat on a 4 or more, the unit that slew him suffers d3 mortal wounds. And 3 Keen Clawed is any wounds on a 6 or more in a combat phase for this hero's mount are resolved with a Ren characteristic of 3, which I think is fantastic because a lot of these mounts have 2 or 3 attacks. So the chances that you're going to roll a 6 are pretty frequent. Like throughout the course of a battle, you might get it twice, you might get it once, depending on how often you're actually in combat. But it's something to remember because that could, neg 3 is just dirty to get that through on somebody. And then the other 3 for each guy are different. So let's just talk about those real quick. For the, let me flip the page on my, here we go. So for, oh, I skipped a page actually. Okay, so first off, for the first one, if a hero suffers any damage from an attack with a characteristic greater than 1, on a 5 or more, he only suffers the 1 attack. The Dracoth Storm Breaths have a range of 16 rather than 12 rather. Pretty devastating because that Storm Breath attack is bananas good. Pack Hunter add 2 to the characteristic for this hero's Dracoth Claws if there is another friendly Dracoth within 6. Then over to the Star Drake, Storm Winged, roll a dice for each enemy unit this hero passes over. On a 2 or more, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. I think that's a winner right there. Thunderlord, the hero Star Drake, rolling Thunderhead ability has a range 24 rather than 18, and Star Branded. When referring to the damage table, this hero treated as having suffered 1 fewer wounds than it actually has. So you have to actually add +1 to its profile in damage to get him off the table. Windrunner, they get the Wind's Etheric special roll. Remember, that's 6 dice in any direction. They still can't run a charge afterwards. Aetherial Stalker have a, what's this beast, which is, when this hero is set up, you choose an enemy. They can reroll all wounds, failed hit, and wound rolls for the Griff Claws Rage would be when directed against a chosen hero. So you pick an enemy hero, and you get to reroll claw attacks. It's kind of cool, but not really. And then in Defigurable, that's a real word, you can reroll the dice when this hero runs. Personally, I think if you're taking Griff Chargers, you're going to want to go with Keen Cloud right there. But that's just my 2 cents. Okay, let's go back to the page of rules we skipped. Boom. Treasured Standards and Mystic Lights. So the Treasure Standards are basically allowed to be taken by, from what I understand, just the Vexilla, because he was the only dude with Totem that I could find in here, and we talked about him already, but here he is right here, just in case he does have the Totem special rule. So we've got 3 different ones of these. They're decent, definitely worth thinking about taking, and you can just take them by if a Totem does not replace any of his existing abilities. I guess it's kind of what I'm just going to say. You're going to see where a lot of this doesn't replace existing abilities, especially with the prayers and the priest, which are on the next page. So let's see, D3 Treasured Standard. So you can remember, you can roll on the D3 or you can just pick it. The hero and a friendly Stormcast units within 12 can reroll all wounds of 1 on any dice when running and charging. Kind of decent. Second one is friendly Stormcast Eternals other than heroes within 6 heal 1 wound in each of their phases. I like that one. Pennant of the Sigmaron, a friendly Stormcast Eternal within 12 of this hero field fails a battle shock check, roll a dice. On a 2 or more, only 1 model flees from the unit. Could be good because their bravery is only 7, which is kind of middle of the road, but it's just something to think about right there. Mystic Lights. This is any Lord Castellan, Veritan, or Knight Azeros can be given one of the following Mystic Lights. These confer an additional ability to the hero. They do not replace any existing abilities. So no keywords here except for having hero and being one of these specific units here. Any enemy units take battle shock tests within 6, add 1 to the result. Chaos units instead get D3 to the result. Fury Brand, I kind of like this one. In your hero phase, they can infuse themselves and another friendly Stormcast Eternal within 6, add 1 to the attack's characteristic for 1 weapon that that hero has until your next phase. You're going to see why this is important because there is that old battalion in here. Where is it? It is the Lords of the Storm. So if you have to take the Lords of the Storm in a lot of battalions, this could come in handy right here. Lantern of the Tempest, it emits a flickering, blinding glare of caged lightning storm. Enemy units direct missile attacks against the hero or friendly Stormcast Eternals within 6 must reroll 6s or more. So it's basically to make 1 less ballistic skill. It's alright, but it's just something to think about there. Then we have the prayers, which are only for the priests. And as far as I can tell, looking through all the keywords, we have 3 fantastic priests. We have the Lord Relictor, 2, and the Lord of Veritan. Those look to be the only ones out there. And I don't think the Knight Azeros, but I went through and I was pretty thorough with my checkings here, but I don't think the Azeros, which is weird because the Mystic Lights, you'd think they would have the prayer as well. But I don't think they do. Let me find the Azeros. That's the big wing guy with the... No, he does not have priest. Okay, so I didn't miss it. So now, what the prayers do, they are an additional prayer that these mans can do. They do not take away from their normal ability to perform a prayer, which you can see right here. Like for instance, the Veritan has let's see here. I'm getting my stuff mixed up. Like I said, it's a lot of material here. Oh yeah, okay, so the Healing Storm or the Sanction. Okay, so the Lord Veritan has a Sanction where he can do the thing against the Wizard where he suffers you can pick him out and he suffers D3 mortal wounds. And then a Lightning Storm, you can declare that Lord Veritan will pray, Lord Relictor will play for a Lightning Storm where you pick a unit and does D3 mortal wounds. So that's their special abilities right here. And then you can also perform one of these in addition to those as well. There's so many units now for Stormcast. It's like everything's starting to kind of sound the same to me. Almost a little bit, right? So again, they can know a different prayer. If you prefer, you can instead of you can roll a dice or you can just pick it, no big deal. Then hints and tips. Some of them have one that allows you to pray for a particular effect. These abilities might be mutually exclusive, so your priest can only use one of these abilities in each turn. Prayers of the Storm Host are not limited in that way. You can always use your priest's extra prayer in addition to the others that they know. So this you can always use in addition to these, whereas they might have to pick several of these. I think they only have 1 each right here so far, but you never know what's coming out next. Then you've got Divine Light right off the bat right there. That's a 12-inch of range, 3+. On a 3+, you can reroll 1s to hit or reroll 6s to hit. So it's kind of like one of those things where you can reroll 1s to when attacking, or you make it so the enemy rerolls their 6s to hit you. So it's basically like you get +1 to hit, or they basically get -1 to hit. But it's not a modifier, it's you reroll a dice. So it's a little bit different. The math's kind of wacky on it, but you kind of get what I'm saying right there. Blessed Weapons is the unit or the model itself within 12 inches on a 4+. Until your next hero phase, any rolls of 6 or more that are made from that unit immediately roll another attack. So it's kind of like an exploding dice kind of thing. 3 is on a 4 or more. The priest and the friendly units within 12 do not have to take battle shock tests. 4 is the priest and a friendly unit within 3. On a 3-up, you remove the chosen unit from the table and set it up again. It's basically a teleport, so anywhere within 24 and 9 inches away from the enemy. This is actually pretty cool. And Abjuration, on a 2 or more, the priest can attempt to unbind a single spell as if he was a wizard. Because remember, when they say as if they were a wizard, they mean you have to be within 18, etc., etc. So those are the... Make sure you look it up in the main rules is all I'm trying to say. It just isn't an instant 2-up. You still have to have range, etc., etc. God King's Aspect, on a 4 or more, enemy units within 12 of the priest add to their battle stack test they have to take. On a 1, the strain of attempting to channel is so great and the priest suffers a mortal wound. Then we get into the pet powers and on into the battle plans, which we're not going to talk about, and of course the Path to Glory stuff, which we already covered in a previous video. Are we there yet? Not even close. Bananas. There's so much material in here. It is ungodly so much. But I love it. Like I said, I would have liked to do more tips and tactics on this particular video here, but it's just not possible given the amount of material. We're already almost to 40 minutes, and we haven't even talked about a single battalion yet. So, we are only going to talk about the new stuff in here. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. The previous stuff has not changed except for the lightning strike ability. Remember, we talked about this already. I showed you the old book. Now, the new lightning strike ability is very similar to what we expect it to be based on the Signs of the Storm special ability. We already talked about that. Remember, you leave all your guys in reserve, and on a 3 or better, they come on, they land within 9, and that's their move. But the lightning strike ability allows you to do this, but you can choose to add 2 or subtract 2 from your rolls for the Signs of the Storm special ability for units from this battalion. And remember, these guys are still in reserve, and when the game ends, it's bad. There's considerations, but maybe you don't want them on the first turn. Maybe you want them the second turn, so you can manipulate your dice rolls now. So all of these battalions, Harbinger, Exemplar, the first one, the Warrior one, those all changed, but just that ability there. They were in the first War Scroll, or Battletome. Lords of the Storm in the first Battletome. All of these were in the first Battletome, so we're not going to cover them. Devastation Brotherhood was in there too. Now we get to something that's actually new, the Vanguard Auxiliary Chamber, which includes the new Lord of Killer, the Azeros, 3 to 9 Knights Azeros, Knights Venator in any combination. So you have to take 3 of these dudes. Those are existing. Then we have 2 new battalions, the Angelos Conclave, the Justicar Conclave right here, which are on the preceding page. So these are the Ranger dudes. These are the new Super Shooty dudes with their Super Shooty crossbows, which also include units of Aether Wings in them. So let's talk about this for a second. Let me grab my notes here. So we have the Aquiller, which we already talked about. He's 200 points. These dudes are like 140 to 160, depending on which one. And then the Conclaves themselves are 100 points for the Angelus and 60 points for the Justicar one right here. Now, what's cool about these is, first off, the Lord of Killer guides, what is it? We set up the whole... instead of setting up a unit from this chamber on a battlefield, you can place it to one side. In any of your movement phases, you can summon any of these units to strike at the enemy's flank. And when you do so, it's the outflank thing. So you can set it up 6 inches from the edge, 7 inches from the enemy at any time. This is their move. It also has a special rule, the Hurricane, where it adds 1 to the attack characteristic with all missile weapons other than heroes from this chamber, which could be particularly devastating because we've already seen that those crossbows are really good, hitting on 3s. Now you get get an extra shot here, so that 1, if you don't move, is getting 10 shots. So you're basically helping out your decimal there, because remember it was 9 if they didn't move. Now it's 10. Now you got a perfect split of 5 times 20 down to 5 because you wound on 4s. Now you're wounding 1. So it helps you if this is what you're looking to do. Now I'm not sure how competitive this particular one here is, and this particular formation I think costs 80 points. Auxiliary chamber. Looks like it costs 80 points, I believe. Vanguard Auxiliary chamber. Let me check my cheat sheet here. 140, excuse me. So this is 140 and contains these two fantastic battalions here. 1 to 3 units of Paladors, 1 to 3 units of Hunters. Dun dun dun. So you've got your Chicken Walkers and your little Ranger dudes right there, which, if you have 3 units of the chickens, they can activate the Ride the Winds and get the 3 additional dice. So now they're rolling the 9 dice for movement, which is pretty good. I feel like anything moving 9d6 seems to be pretty dope. Trap and Sprung. If all the Vanguard Hunters are set up in a pursuit and arrive in the same movement phase, they can immediately attack as if it were the shooting phase. Because remember, now you can do that crazy stuff where you can just come on from the board whenever you want. So there you go. Very cool little combo right there. I think this is probably the way to take these guys. They don't seem super strong on their own, to me personally. Vanguard, just the card Conclave, is pretty decent as well. Fight in concert. The Aether Wings and Stormcasts can reroll hits of 1 for attacks directed against any unit within 12 inches of the Aether Wings. Remember, they're a little soft, they're a little squishy, and enemies will be smart to shoot them, but it's one more thing they have to shoot while they're getting blasted by these guys. So they have to kind of weigh out their options there. Raptor Strike. The warriors of this are practicing spotting weaknesses. If anything was already wounded, they can, if they direct all their attacks against something that was wounded, you can add 1 to their wound roll. So pretty cool. Now you're getting 1s to hit. Now you're getting +1 to, or excuse me, +1 attack. Now you're getting +1 to the wound. Really, all you need is +1 to hit, and there's ways to do that. Let's be honest, right? So not too shabby. We've seen this before, the Extremist Chamber. We've seen all this in a previous book that came out in between the last Battletome, so we're not going to cover it. Same with the Storm Vortex, same with the Storm Heralds. And then that leads us, excuse me. Oh, no, we skipped 2 very important battalions here. The Aether Strike Force is a combination battalion, once again, that includes a lot of the new units, but some of the old ones, like the old Judicators, which are just the dudes with the crossbows. They're okay. But then you've got 2 units of Aether Wings, as well as the Vanguard Raptors of either type. They don't tell you which ways to take them, with the Hurricane crossbows or the normal crossbows, a Venator and an Azeros. In your hero phase, 1 unit from this force can attack as if they were the shooting phase. All their attacks must be directed at units within 12 of the Aether Wings from this battalion or the Knight Azeros from this battalion. So it allows you to kind of take an out of sequence kind of shooting kind of shot in order to get extra firepower, which would be pretty devastating depending on what you're shooting with. And remember, these guys are range 18 to 24 depending on what you're doing. Vengeance from Afar. When a unit from this force is destroyed, another unit from this force can attack as if it were the shooting phase. All their attacks must be directed at the enemy to destroy the Aether, the unit from the force. So if something does die, like perhaps the Aether Wings, which have a terrible save, then you can flip over and just blast them, maybe use the Azeros to target and get that free out of sequence attack. I think it's pretty decent formation, especially with the new rules. And if you have the old school Judicators, that's pretty decent. And then here's the Super Dino Rider pack. Chicken Walker, Kitty Cat Rider, I don't know what to call these. The Chocobos and the Battle Cats, we'll go with that, right? So this is the combination formation that has both of them in it. You get up to 3 units of you have to have 3 units of the Dracoth Guard, 1 of Killer, and 3 units of the new Chocobos and the Lord Celestin on Dracoth. So what's really cool about this is it allows you, I think this is the one that allows you to activate their command abilities. Yep. This is the one that allows you, if either the Lord Celestin or Lord Alcolor from this pack is your general, then the other one may use the command abilities as though they were your general. So you get one and you get the other. They both get to use their command abilities, and they're pretty decent. The Lord Celestin on Dracoth's command ability is, if any of them have to take Battle Shock within 24. Oh, you're immune to Battle Shock, so that's not too bad. And the Lord of Kohler is a little bit better. You can remove the Lord of Kohler and or friendly units of Vanguard, Hunter, Battalion, Paladors, Raptors, or Aether Wings within 24 and place them into the Pursuit mode, which is the Astral Compass mode, which allows you to basically outflank them in 40k turns. You set them up within 6 of the board edge, 7 inches from the enemy unit the next turn. So got some options there. If you get into trouble, you can redeploy or go after some objectives or something like that. So it's a pretty neat little little unit here. that I don't think is too bad. Now, this one is really interesting. If a unit from this pack moves over an enemy unit by riding the wind's etheric, and there's a unit from this battalion with Storm Breath or Storm Blast ability within 12, then the enemy suffers a mortal wound. So you have to have both. You have to have the Drakos, and you have to have the Chocobos doing their wind's etheric thing to basically get a free mortal wound out of that as well. So you have to pass over something, and then it has to trigger it with that. It's a little combo that you might not want to forget, because hey, who doesn't like some mortal wounds? Alright, then we get into the stuff that we've already talked about. And now we're almost to an hour. It's been 45 minutes. You believe that? I can't believe I'm still talking. Thank you so much for listening. There's so much material here. There was no way I can do how to army list breakdowns and construction, because I mean, we're just getting to the battalion formation. This is probably going to take another 5 to 10 minutes. There's so much information in here. If you're an Age of Sigmar player, you need this book. You need to know what these guys do. If you play Stormcast, obviously you need this book, because you need to know what these guys do. So this is the section where they basically go over the specific factions for, you know, the guys like the ogres. It was the specific clans. You know, for the Oruks, it was the specific like factions. It's just the guys with the war paint. It's all different here. Now these are the warrior chambers. So this is the battalions, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and basically it's just the different paint jobs for them that they talked about in the fluff. But now here they are. Personally, I think the warrior chamber one's the best. They're all pretty good in their own very, very, very unique ways. Personally, I think this one's the best. Let me flip to my notes here, and we'll talk about them. So first off, let's see which one. This is the battalion, warrior battalion. I think this is the 121. Let's see how. Yep, this is the 121. So 120 to take this battalion. It includes all of what you see right here, and here are the special abilities. It's a lot of the stuff in the first book that is ported back over to here. Units in this battalion have +1 to their bravery, and then the Heralds of the God King special rule on the 6. You get, if anything is liberators are completely wiped out, you get to replace them coming back using the lightning strike ability that we already talked about several times on here. So it's a 1 in 6 chance. It could happen, it could not happen. The command trait is whenever friendly hammers a Sigmar within 3 of your general suffers a wound, on a roll of 6, that wound or mortal wound is ignored. So pretty decent. It's we've seen that with some of the Chaos Shields can do that. Now they can do that too. Pretty cool. Then we get into the Hallowed Knights Warrior Chamber Battalion, which is 100 extra points. Very crazy. Comes with everything you see here, including the Lords of the Storm Battalion. Abilities aren't that great, to be 100% honest. On a 5 or more, ignore the effect of a spell cast on a friendly unit this turn. Units can add 1 to their charge and run distances on Martyr's Death. I like this one though. On a 2 or more, they are not removed as a casualty until the end of the phase. In the meantime, they can still pile in and attack as normal. That's pretty cool, and what you have here can definitely do some damage in combat. Do I think it's worth it? Do I think it's worth the 100 points? I don't know. It's up to y'all to decide, but it's decent. It's decent. And I mean, if you have your stuff painted that way, you gotta take it, right? Here's the next one. This is Celestial Vindicators Warrior Chamber. Dun dun dun. This particular one here, let's see, it's not the Exemplars. The Celestial, where is that? Oh, this one's 80. So this one is 80 points here. Abilities. If a unit armed with Warblades, Grand Blades, Storm Galdi, Glaives, or Storm Sabers can reroll all hits for these weapons until the end of turn. Not too bad. Vindicator Hammer Strike Forces is 12 inch instead of 6 inches, so the supercharged ability, pretty cool. Speak with your swords. When your general uses this ability, friendly Celestial Vindicators within 6 add 1 to the attack characteristics of the Warblades, Grand Blades, Storm Blades, all the stuff we talked about there until your next hero phase. Dun 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 dun. He has his command ability in addition to any of the other ones they have. Don't have to pop it off, but you could pop it off. I don't know. It's situational, right? Next one up, Anvils of the Helden Hammer Warrior Chamber. Say that 10 times fast, right? Don't have my notes on this one. Anvils is 80 points for this particular war scroll here. Any unit within 8 of a heroes from this battalion on a 6, it can move as it were the movement phase, shoot as it was shooting phase, or pile in and make attacks as if it were the combat phase. This does not prevent it from acting normally for the rest of your turn. So this is an out of sequence thing that you can do in the hero phase. It's very similar to what we're seeing in the 40k with Eldar, the Soul Burst special ability, but you have to roll a 6. So, that's good. But I mean, judging by the stuff that you have right here, it's very situational depending on what you have in here. None of these are super standout or super crazy in my opinion. Oh, and one other thing too, these are adding to special abilities. So they're gaining a lightning strike and a wrath of storm abilities, which a lot of times is just +1 to hit, +1 to wound, or reroll ones to ruin. You're just gonna have to flip to the page and see which one it is for the specific one here. Lightning strike we already talked about. That's the one where you bring your guys in from reserve. Wrath of storm abilities. Well, since it's both there, let's go flip to it. I think that's just a reroll one. Reroll failed wound rolls for attacks made by these models. So that confers to both of these. You just read the bottom there, and it'll tell you what page to flip to. And then Blessed Weapon. They can have this artifact of power. Soul Thief. Pick one of the hero's melee weapons. If a model is wounded and not slain, roll a dice for that model at the end of combat. If the result is higher than the model's wound characteristic, it is immediately slain. Again, situational, isn't always going to happen, but it could happen. The Exemplar Chamber is a 100-point battalion that has some decent stuff in there. It's got the Lords of the Storm, so you got your characters, and you got your Devastation Brotherhood Battalion, which is exactly the same as what we saw in the first book. Any unit within 3 of 2 or more of these units can reroll save rolls to 1. Very cool. Units bearing Sigmarite Shield can reroll failed saves of 1 or 2. This is very similar to what we saw with the formation, the Wardens formation, Wardens of the Realm Gate formation in the first book that they took away. So a lot of people might be looking to this as a replacement. Victory Absolute. Anytime they destroy a unit in a combat phase, it heals D3 wounds. Very cool. Also very useful. Magic Artifact. Knight Excelsior can have the following artifact. Power instead of the one chosen from page 96 to 98. Your hero may attempt to bind an enemy hero or monster within 3. To do so, roll 3 dice where your opponent rolls 2. If the target is a hero, 3 if it's a monster. If your total is higher, that model halves its distance. It moves, runs, charges, and attacks, rounding up until the next hero phase. Could you imagine doing that to Archaon? Or a Frost Lord, or Alariel, or something like that. That is crazy. This is a very, very, very cool battalion. Probably my #1 pick out of all of these. Celestial Warbringers and a Harbinger Chamber. I think this was the one I didn't like, and it seems to be the most expensive. So it's 140 for this one. The Horns of War, whenever they go to battle, they can pick a target within 25 for their Onwards to Glory or Thunderblast abilities. Joyous Host. If there is another enemy unit within 3, roll a dice. On a roll of 6, they may immediately pile in and get an attack with one of their melee weapons. They have to get there, but it seems like they have the tools to get there. Maybe I'm missing something here. Again, I don't like these guys. I don't know why. Maybe I'm missing it. Unshakable Confidence. Celestial Warbringers cannot be affected by rules and abilities that reduce bravery in any way. Okay. Harbinger Chamber. Dun dun dun. This is, let's see, is this the one that's 140? I think this is the one that's 142. Harbinger Chamber is also 140. Masters of the Strike. Units that can fly can make a charge move and charge phase where not an enemy is in range, and they can move even if that move would not finish within ½ inch of an enemy unit. So it's just extra buffs to do during the charge move. So even if you couldn't do it, you can still do it. Kind of cool. Remember, a lot of stuff's going to be moving fast anyways. Your Vanguard wing and your Lords of the Storm, well, they're going to be ground pounders, but it is what it is. Let's see. Keep the count of enemy models slain. Once that number is equal to or more than 12 times the number of heroes in your army, each friendly Tempest unit adds 1 to their attack characteristics and their wound characteristics, so each of your heroes. In your hero phase, your general can order a strike on an enemy unit within 3. Friendly Tempest Lords can reroll hit and wound rolls for attacks that target the unit until your next hero phase. So this is all about Hero Hammer at its finest right here. Of course, you can take the Lords of the Storm, and then your Vanguard wing does its Thug Thizzle around there as well. The Celestial Nimbus ability, I think that's the reroll 1 to hit. And then, of course, they got the Ride the Lightning special rule. That's not the real name. That's what I just came up with. Add 1 to result of any hits of models from a Harbinger chamber. So, +1 to hit right there. Then we got the Exemplar chamber, and there's only... That's the last one, actually. This is your Beast Hunter one right here. And this particular one is only 100 points for this formation. Lords of the Storm, again, but has to have 6. And a Devastation Brotherhood Battalion. These guys get +1 to their hit rolls against monsters. While there are more enemy models than friendly models within 3 of a hero, they get 1 to all their attacks. And a veteran of the Gnarlwood from the land of Grr. They reroll all failed to hit and wound rolls for attacks made against by the general against monsters. So it's okay if you're going up against like the fatties or something like that, but overall this probably isn't the best formation here, but it certainly isn't the worst considering the amount of ridiculousness out there. So I think overall the best one here, in my opinion, is definitely going to be the Excelsior Exemplar chamber. Just all of these are so good, and of course they get the Ride the Lightning special rule and the Martial Bond abilities, which I guess we might as well flip to that real quick because we've been talking for an hour. Why not talk for 2 seconds more? This is the one. Unit harnesses Celestial Energy. Add 1 to the attack characteristic of all units' melee weapons for the remainder of battle. If anything is slain in the combat phase, you get to pick another unit within 10 inches. So if something does manage to die, even though they can reroll their wounds and heal wounds, you will get bonuses as well. So it's just a well-rounded little form of battalion right there that I feel like. So that is it. I have run out of stuff to talk about. I could certainly talk about a lot more things, but I have not planned for any actual army construction and army kind of metas because I'm still trying to go through and figure out all the things that have changed, which we already talked about. However, I think there's a lot more to talk about, and I think I will try to get to another kind of like how to play 2nd edition. I like to call this 2nd edition because they've taken all of the rules from all of the supplements over the past year and a half and put them into this book now. So trying to get everything and compare and contrast it, figure out what has changed, has become a very Herculean affair, so to speak. But we're muddling through it, we're getting it, we're recording all this stuff, we're starting to see all the combos between all the battalions and things like that, and a picture is kind of starting to coalesce in my mind of what is a good ways to take these guys here and what is not, what is chafe, what is hotness. So hopefully we'll get to that video for next week. Please forgive the longevity of this video. This is probably the longest tips and tactics I have ever recorded in the history of ever, but there's that much content in here. Thank you so much for hanging in there, folks. We'll see you next time.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. TheLongWar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.